From Relay FM, this is Connected, episode number 27. Today's show is brought to you by lynda.com, where you can instantly stream thousands of courses created by industry experts. For a 10-day free trial, visit lynda.com/connected. Igloo, an intranet you'll actually like, and Squarespace. Build it beautiful. My name is Myke Hurley, and I'm joined by Mr. Stephen Hackett. Hello, Stephen Hackett.
Hello, Michael Hurley.
And Mr. Federico Vitici. Hello, Federico Vitici.
Hey guys, hey Michael Hurley. Are you a billionaire yet?
I am multiple times over a billionaire. Yes.
So you're like a trillionaire.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Is there any specific reason you asked me that question? Just so I know.
No, because you have been everywhere today.
Oh,
at least in my Twitter and RSS feeds. There's like Myke all over the place.
They're my favorite.
Everywhere I turn my face, there's Myke. Feels like I'm being, I don't know, like I'm being followed by you.
I feel like I should reinvent podcasts every single day, just so I can. I have to say, it's very nice to see your name in lights in places. You know, I like it. In case you don't know what we're talking about, as a show that I do on Relay FM, this podcast network of which Connected is a part of, called Inquisitive, and since like November, I've been working on a new show. Well, I've been working on a new kind of direction for Inquisitive called Behind the App. So basically the show is like a series of maybe 10 to 15 episodes. We'll see how many it will end up being, where I'm looking at the history of iOS app development in episode 1, and it's going to go through to like what it takes to build iOS apps and kind of what it's like to have Apple as a gatekeeper and stuff like that. It's a very different type of show to the shows that we tend to make, and I would hazard a guess to say to many of the podcasts you listen to from a production standpoint, it's very different, and I put a lot of work into it, and I'm very proud of it, and I think that you might enjoy it if you haven't already heard it, so you should do that. So relay.fm/inquisitive/27 is the episode that you want to start with.
Yeah, I mentioned in my post today about it. Like this sort of show is one reason that we started Relay. So, this is only possible when you control the whole stack. And so, you had the idea, we fleshed out the idea, you have the time in your schedule to, it's very, people just don't know. This is for, I don't know how long the show ended up being, 40 minutes or so, 45 minutes, hours of editing. And,
just the piecing together of the episode, let alone cutting up all the clips or the interviews or the script writing. Like just the actual edit of the episode probably took about 3 hours.
Yeah, I don't know how many drafts and pieces of it I've heard over the last couple months, but I know I'm super happy that you're doing it, Myke. It's really exciting.
Myke, you are now full stack podcasters.
Yeah.
You control it all. You control all the pieces. You're like what's the mastermind of Inquisitive? No, seriously, man. It's so like I listened to the first episode twice or 3 times maybe. It's really great. And again, I say this not because you're my friend. You are. That you are my friend, but I think objectively it's a great show, and I think it's a great idea at the right time. The format is really feels fresh, but also it doesn't feel strange. Like it feels just right to me. And so I know that you and Stephen have been doing so much planning for this, and all the work behind the scenes. So I'm a big fan myself. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of it.
But you are my friend, so don't worry when I say, that kind of stuff. You are my friend.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I was worried.
Myke.
I was really worried.
No, nothing happened, Myke. I can assure you.
Okay. No, I am worried.
Shall we do follow up and leave y'all's breakup behind? So Microsoft is still on the move. Outlook for iOS, which we've talked about the last couple of weeks, it's really kind of stuck around, offers straight up IMAP support. So if you're like me and have mail at Fastmail or some other just IMAP service, you can use Outlook now. And I plugged my Fastmail stuff in. It seemed to work just fine. I'm not using Outlook day to day, but it's great to have some options in here. and they just keep rolling the updates out to this stuff. The whole Office suite actually this week also picked up support for iCloud Drive and other cloud services. So for a while it was just OneDrive, and then it was OneDrive plus Dropbox, and now you can use iCloud Drive or anything else. Microsoft's doing stuff. They're making their app sort of better on iOS, and that's a good time.
I still need to add my IMAP accounts to Outlook, but this is like a month that it relaunched, maybe 3 weeks. I don't know. I'm really enjoying Outlook, and especially like I find myself when I need to look up like a time or just my schedule in general, instead of opening my calendar app, I open Outlook, which is kind of weird because it's my email client. But I don't know. It sort of I formed, I guess, this new habit, and it's been working fine for me. I wanted to ask you, Stephen, because you seem to be like the person who's an expert about this sort of stuff. Do you guys have like certified email? Basically, in Italy, we have to, if you own a business, you have to create these, if you want to receive like government messages over email and you want them to be certified, you need to create this special, it's called a PEC, it's spelled PEC in Italy, and it's basically like a certified email account that allows you to, I don't know, it's got like a special signature or whatever. Do you have this sort of email? I guess there's like a different name outside of Italy.
Yeah, we don't here in the States. I've heard of that before, but it's not something that goes on here. If I wanted this, for instance, the state of Tennessee, where the LLC is located, they send me emails about various things, and that could go to an AOL address for all they care. It seems like I just go into the state website and change it. So I don't think there's anything real special about that.
Mm-hmm. It's probably one of those bureaucracy things that we do in Italy.
It's not a bad idea, though, right? Stuff. Like if you send an email about tax information, it just goes to somebody. I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, I guess. It's just, the process of, I remember like last year, it was kind of awful. We have a special ability in Italy to overcomplicate things, and this is one of them. So all this to say, I'm gonna add this account in over IMAP, for those occasional government emails that I get.
Right, they're just like, "Hey, Federico, how you doing?"
Here's a picture of a
cat. How do you do it? How do you do the certification?
You sign up. You have to provide your documents, like your ID, like business information. And you go through this process, you pay with a credit card, and there's like a couple of providers that you can use to buy one of these email accounts. And they have like a @pec.it domain name. And then you wait a couple of days and the email becomes active, and you gotta go. I basically gave this email to my local government business and office. I don't know how it's called in America. And then they use this email when they want to send you like notices when you do something wrong, and you don't want to get those emails. So I just get it. I just get the good emails like, we remind you that you gotta file your taxes, between January and whatever, those kind of messages. And it's IMAP. The good news is that normally you would be forced to go to a website to like a web app for email that looks like Windows 95, but thankfully you can configure this special email over IMAP. So that's what it made me think of my email account that I need to add to Outlook.
That seems
Stephen Hackett.
That seems a little
email expert.
A little crazy.
This was not where I expected the conversation to go.
Businesses and government, it's a fun conversation.
Oh yeah, my favorite of all conversations.
I bet that there must be some sort of this sort of expert out there who will send us some follow-up for stuff that I got wrong.
Yeah,
I'm sure there must be some government email certified expert.
Yeah, I did find the link to the page. The parts of it that are in English seem to be they're talking about the PEC. So, Federico, if someone were want to find this in our show notes, where would they go?
They would go to the web and just go to Google and type connected show notes. Google will just give them to you. No,
They will.
I think you gotta go to relay.fm/connected, which is the name of the show, and then another slash, and you type 27 for 27, and you get the show notes for this very episode.
Google would probably work as well, though.
It actually does.
I don't know. It does?
Yeah.
Really?
It pulls up episode 8 or something first.
That doesn't make any sense.
But if you only want to see the show notes for episode 8,
8 was a good episode.
Yeah, it was just listen over and over to episode 8.
Yeah,
what was episode 8?
It was I've closed the tab now. It was Squidges. We talked about Twitter and health apps, and then the current state of iOS 8.
That sounds like every episode for like a month.
It's true. We talked about this was leading up to the Retina iMac. Now we're just reading our own show notes, so we're gonna move on. So I've got a little follow up. We spoke last week about how Memphis doesn't do very well in snow and ice. I have no idea how that became a topic, but it was. And the prompt curse has followed us to Connected, and now it's about weather.
Seriously.
So Memphis woke up Monday morning to like 1.5 inches of just solid ice over everything. And tomorrow is the first day that the schools will be open this week. Because like you can't, I was out yesterday and today, and it's sketchy to drive, and because we don't have snowplows, and snowplows don't even deal with ice. We got a little snow last night on top of the ice, and now they're calling
an ice plow.
Dude, go to Kickstarter and start that. It's just all it is me driving with Federico in the back of my car with a shovel, like scraping it along as I drive.
Do you want me to use a shovel?
I don't know.
I don't think I ever used a shovel in my life.
I don't think a shovel's going to help you with ice too much.
You kind of
when it
smashes.
snowed in Italy a couple of years ago, and it was really, really bad in Viterbo because like there was like 2 meters of snow. That's like 20 miles, Stephen. So basically, it snowed so much that my family was like, "You need to go outside with a shovel and remove the snow from your car." I was just like, "Yeah, whatever. I don't want to." I stayed inside for like 3 days.
Yeah,
and I basically ran out of food at one point. I was forced to cook my own. To bake my own cookies.
I remember that.
Yeah,
I remember.
Remember
I'm
that?
sure I remember you taking pictures of what was in your fridge.
yeah. Like, all I can do is make cookies.
Exactly. And it was a really popular Instagram picture, I remember. I got a lot of likes for cookies. So I stay inside, Stephen. I don't try to make me use a shovel.
Okay.
The only shovel I use is on shovel night.
Well,
right, Michael?
Oh yeah.
We'll pivot then to something else. But now they're calling for more. They're calling for more snow and ice now tomorrow night. So I might never see you guys again. But so we've cursed it, and we got ice, and everyone is dead. So
that's a good sign.
So moving on to the follow up, we got an email this week from a listener named Spencer, and I thought it was interesting. I thought it'd be worth talking about. Spencer writes, I wanted to know what you thought of a price reduction strategy for the Apple Watch, as the individual device would be expensive. With the iPhone, there's less initial cost because of a 2-year contract with the cellular provider. Basically, could Apple do that and somehow subsidize the watch with iCloud storage or vice versa? I thought it was interesting. I don't ever foresee that sort of thing happening for a bunch of reasons, but what do you guys think about this?
It doesn't, to me, like those things don't really seem to like add up, like that it would happen. Like there just doesn't seem like those two things would really make much sense for Apple to do, because like the subsidizing of the iPhone is not something that Apple subsidizes. Like they are selling them at full price just to the the cell companies, and then they subsidize it for Apple. So like Apple's still making all of the money, and like then they still make money on the iCloud. Like selling you iCloud services feels like money left on the table because they would sell you the iCloud services anyway.
Probably.
I totally agree. I mean, that really sums up my thoughts. And
I think it's especially problematic when you consider how often Apple has changed the iCloud pricing scheme over the years. Like it started as one type of service, and then they changed the price, and then they changed the price again. And I think that maybe just trying to sell the Apple Watch in this way would like force Apple to never change, iCloud pricing again. I don't know. It doesn't seem to me like the sort of thing that Apple would do.
Yeah, and I mean, I think above all of that, iCloud and the watch, from what we know today, don't have a ton of interaction, right? Because the watch is basically a satellite for the phone. And so if Apple was ever going to do more with iCloud, and maybe make the pricing better or more aggressive or something like that, I don't think the watch is the product they would attach it to. It just, back in the day when you bought a Mac, I remember very clearly the Apple Store were like trying to sell .Mac memberships because that was an add-on. And, right now iCloud doesn't really connect to the watch. It connects to all these other products. And so I do think iCloud pricing is still a little weird in places. I hate that I can't pay for just a year, but they ping my debit card for 99 cents a month. But I don't really see a world where the watch is somehow subsidized or iCloud is subsidized by the watch or anything like that, honestly. But an interesting point, I think. So, something to talk about. Michael.
Yes, sir.
You want to tell us about some of our friends?
Oh, I would love to. This week's episode of our fine podcast radio program is brought to you by our friends over at lynda.com. Lynda.com are a great company that allow you to learn new and awesome things. Lynda.com can give you a 10-day free trial. You just go to lynda.com, sign up right now, and you'll be able to invest in yourself and learn something new. Lynda.com is used by millions of people around the world and has over 3,000 courses on topics like web development, photography, visual design, and business, as well as some software training too. Maybe you want to learn Adobe Photoshop or Illustrator. They have courses taught by the people that work at Adobe. Maybe you want to learn Excel, or you want to learn, maybe you want to learn Aperture before it goes away. You can still do that with lynda.com. Maybe you want to learn a new hobby. Maybe you want to set yourself some new goals for this year that lynda.com can help you achieve by allowing you to learn cool stuff. Or maybe you want to just improve some skills that you've had for ages. Maybe you want to get a raise this year. So if you're able to maybe train yourself a little bit more, then you can get that. Lynda.com will give you unlimited access to all of their courses once you sign up, and you'll be able to view them on your desktop, on your PC, if you want to, on your Mac, on the iOS and Android apps that they have as well. You can learn wherever you want, whenever you want with lynda.com. Maybe you're interested in getting into app development. Well, they have Swift training. If you're interested in that, they can help you look at moving your current Objective-C apps to Swift, which is something that you can do now. Lynda.com has a great kind of like comparison course, so you can kind of look between the two of them and see what the easiest ways are to move over. And I mentioned Illustrator and Photoshop. Lynda.com have great courses on those, but maybe you're interested in getting into design. They have just courses in general, maybe about drawing, but also on how to draw vector graphics and stuff like that. So maybe you're interested in graphic design or logo design or even app design. All of those courses can be of great help to you. Lynda.com is just a great resource. It's one of those things that you kind of, once you start digging into it, you learn all those things that you've kind of been putting off for years. It's like, oh, I have always wanted to try and make my own podcast, or you can learn GarageBand, or you can learn Logic, or I have always wanted to learn GTD. They have courses on that. So it really is just a fantastic resource. And if for some reason you haven't tried it out yet, you can get a free 10-day trial by going to lynda.com/connected. You can sign up right now and you'll get to play around with it for 10 days for free. Thank you so much to lynda.com for supporting this show and all of Relay FM. I challenge you to learn something new with lynda.com.
Alrighty. So the New Yorker published I think I saw 16,000 word. It's crazy. It's a book,
Yeah.
basically.
Blah.
Did you read it, Mike?
No.
Of course you didn't.
I read it. I read it all on my iPad, and it was great. It is long, and it is at times a little tedious, but definitely the best look the public's been given of Ive and his work. And so I thought maybe, I mean, I'm sure lots of people have read it. Again, it'll be in the show notes. But I thought maybe we could just kind of touch on some high points that sort of we thought were interesting, and then go from there.
How about you two just tell me the interesting things that you found?
Okay, so basically, Jony Ive is secretly he comes from Mars, and he came to our planet to basically finish all our aluminum resources, so that basically the human race will end. And it's like it's part of a Jony Ive's master plan is to finish us off by using all the aluminum on Earth.
He's depleting the world's aluminium sources.
Yeah,
Fair
that's enough. The takeaway from the old piece is this one.
Well, I wouldn't have expected that. I'm pleased that the New Yorker was able to capture this very important piece of information.
It's also awesome reporting by the New Yorker.
Should we move on?
Okay, so basically, I will start. I think the general theme of the article is that Jony Ive is a really tired and stressed person, that he works a lot and he oversees a lot of projects. So he's in charge of iPhone, iPad, Mac hardware design. He handles the human interface group. So that means software and other design initiatives in general. He's also in charge of, he's basically overseeing a major redesign of the Apple Store, which will include, according to the article, new see-through tables for the Apple Watch. He's also overseeing the new Apple Campus 2 project, and he drives there basically every day to check on the status with the Norman Foster company guys working at the site. What else?
I think that those two things maybe somebody else could do.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. Basically, and he's like obsessed over the construction of the site. Like there's a lot of details in the article about like how the floor and like the walls will form some sort of corner. When they collide. So like a lot of details, like a lot of minimal details, small details of the old structure. He's in charge of those, and he's overseeing and he's changing stuff.
Again,
still.
I apologize. Well, I'm just going to apologize once for my ignorance because I haven't read this. But like when you say about like the floors and walls corner thing, is that like when you create like a light box out of photography, and it's got this specific term to it, where like
yeah, kinda. That's my understanding. Like the transition is seamless. That's what I understood from. No, not meant to be a joke.
No. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at the thought that now they'll just do those product videos from any corridor, just
any office. Well, and if you get lost, you find where they're keeping Scott Forstall, and he's just touching an original iPad over and over.
No, get this, Myke. Basically, I'm not joking. Again, Jony Ive is like he has a problem with sharp corners, so he specifically mentions that he wanted to change the shape of icons of iOS 5 and iOS 6 to more soft and like rounder corners in iOS 7 because he was annoyed by the shape before iOS 7. And like the article mentions in other sections that is really like he has basically a personal problem with corners of stuff, and that he used to argue for hours with Steve Jobs about corners of basically everything.
Clearly, he doesn't use folders on his iOS devices because the corner radius still changes after load. I can't look at it. It does.
Oh man, I didn't know that it still did that.
At least in iOS 8.1.3 it still does. Wow. Yeah, Federico, I was impressed too by the fact that he seems to be doing lots of things. Now, I'm sure that he has lots of people helping him and all these things. And I know because I've been through a commercial construction project, that there's a lot of moving parts and a lot of people, but it does seem like, why does he have to go on site? And the question is, did he do that because there was a reporter and they're trying to show that he's doing all these things, or is this like, is he really as thinly stretched as it seems? Yeah. And it definitely is a little concerning. Someone on Twitter the other day was like, we're going to get to the car stuff, but like, Apple would do a car to keep Jony Ive from being bored. Like, I don't think boredom is the risk with Jony Ive. I think it's like utter annihilation of time.
Actually, if anything, I think they're making the Apple Watch because this guy needs to take care of his health.
Yeah.
I mean, they mentioned that he's been so stressed out and so tired before the introduction of the iPhone 6 and the Apple Watch and Apple Pay, all the September event, that he was basically really ill and that he needed to rest. So he took a vacation for the first time in years. It's like, this guy needs to, take like 6 months off and just sleep.
I feel like that maybe the construction project, like the architecture project, that might just be something like he wants to do because he's never going to get to do that again. Like, in theory, like, you can imagine someone being like really interested in that because he's probably not an architect, right, by training. Like, I'm just going to assume that that's the case. I mean, it might sound stupid, but I don't know off the top of my head what his formal training was. So like, he's probably in a situation where he can play architect, like in this scenario, like, and nobody's going to tell him he can't, and he might just be interested in that like process. So I can kind of see that one, but maybe some of the other stuff, like the idea of helping redesign the Apple stores, like there's just, to me, like, just allow the people that do that to just do that. Like, you don't need to do that.
Yeah, the article says what we already knew, that basically Steve Jobs set up Jony Ive's role in a way that he can basically have his say in everything that Apple does. So, and also they say that at Apple, the role of designers is held in such high regard that it's like when a priest walks into a church. So when a designer walks into a meeting, it's like whatever the designer says, you gotta basically shut up and listen. And so, yeah, Jony Ive basically can go to the retail team and say, yep, I don't like the corner of the table. Then he goes to the campus site and he's like, yeah, I don't like the corner of the wall. And
he's just done corner brigade. Where are the corners? Well, let me eradicate them.
Maybe he has a Tumblr where he makes fun of bad corners.
Jony Ive redesigns corners.
Yeah.
Tumblr.com.
But I think that is interesting. There was a quote in the article comparing the way design works at Apple and the way design works at other companies, and that instead of being like one vertical stripe as you move through a product lifestyle, that I'm in design, now I'm out of design, that it's horizontal, that design is always involved. And there are comments in the article about like retail packaging and all these things, and it's really, we made the joke about being full stack podcasters, but with Apple, it really is like full stack design, like world where, the guys in this lab can speak into any project and are involved from the very inception. They're meeting with engineers, they're milling things. I mean, and I'd known they had milling machines stuff put in Cupertino that's been written about before. But like, they just go make prototypes, and they had a prototype for all the iPhone sizes when they were going to go bigger, and they settled on 4.7 and 5.5 by ruling out all the others. And I think that approach, while I'm sure exhausting, like that's why this stuff is so, especially the hardware, is so good.
Yeah. And there was a bit in the article, Myke, about the desks that the tables actually that they use in the design lab, which is basically this large room where what's the number? Like 40 people, Stephen? 50 people, maybe less.
Yeah, I think that I don't remember, but I think that's the high end.
And
Yeah,
I'm
so there's
assuming this is just Johnny's team, right? Like,
yeah, the design team, the design, like the really special people at Apple, and they have these tables. And again, Jony Ive and Steve Jobs obsessed over these tables because they made them that they are basically low enough when you want to sit down and work, but also high enough when you want to demonstrate stuff while standing up in
that
front of the
seems like
table.
it defies the laws of physics.
No, they say it's possible. Apparently,
It's a table that you can stand at and sit at, and it's the
yeah,
exact right height for both
it's
things.
the Johnny Magic table. It's a they have a trademark.
Yeah. Well, it's the table thing really like pulls through Apple. An interview with Tim Cook several years ago, I think maybe right after he was named CEO. He had this quote of, everything we make, we can put on this table. And he repeated it on the Charlie Rose show. That's sort of an idea that Tim Cook likes to spout, that, everything we make, we can put on your dining room table. And that's our business, right? All of it. And thinking back at this article, they're talking about, they would have, all these iPhones on the table, and then the old stuff gets cleared off, and then the new thing is on the table. And that's sort of like hands-on collaborative approach to design, I think, is something that resonates even with Tim Cook on the product side, that, this is really, there's a lot going on here, but it's sort of simple to understand. And that's really, I think, why Ive is so good at what he does, is like, these things are complicated devices, and iOS 7 and 8 are complicated pieces of software, but they're doing what they can to make it simple to use and easy to understand. One of my favorite bits of industrial design ever out of Apple is the iPhone ringer mute switch, where if it's on mute, you get a little sliver of that sort of orangey red down there. So even if it doesn't vibrate, if you can't remember, you can just look at it and know, okay, it's on mute, because you know what that red means. It's those little types of touches that really set their stuff apart.
One of the other great parts from the article, Myke, is when the reporter asks about how do you relate to the fact that people are about to walk into an Apple store in September and buy a new iPhone, and you're already working on the next iPhone. And Ive says, when we develop a new product in this way, like an iPhone, of course, when the current iPhone comes out, we're already using the next iPhone. And he says, like, he looks at the iPhone 6 and he says, like, this is already boring to me, because he's using the iPhone 6s or the iPhone 7. And I think that's fascinating, because I mean, we know that, of course, Apple is working already. Probably they have already finished the next iPhone. But just to think that a person like me and you were all excited to get the new iPhone 6 and the 6 Plus, and there's somebody on this planet who thinks it's already ugly and boring, I think that was kind of funny.
Yeah, because you probably assume, right, that he's using a version of the iPhone 7 when the iPhone 6 comes out, because they don't need to start thinking about the 6S or whatever, do they? Because it's the same. Like for Johnny's perspective, like, his team is done, like for a whole 2 years of each one.
Maybe. I mean, the 4S and 5S did have minor hardware revisions, but I see what you're saying, right? That it's adding Touch ID or changing the antenna breaks, not a huge deal, as opposed to the next major release.
Yeah, like he's already thinking about like the whole next full redesign.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure there's people in his team that are working on the minor revisions, but he's not. Like, I can't imagine that he's doing that.
They began testing the bigger iPhones with the iPhone 4 design in 2010, 2011. And basically, because of the design, it was all, it was basically with the sharp edges.
You're carrying like a VHS tape around.
Yeah, it was. And
I bet he hated it.
They tested this 5.7-inch huge iPhone 4, and it's like it was too bulky and uncomfortable, and we just decided to wait. Probably a good call.
Yeah. That the rounded corners, as slippery as it makes it, does help with the kind of making it seem smaller. I think kind of the last thing that I wanted to touch on was the sort of Jony Ive outside of the lab. So I mean, he interviewed him at his house. He talked to people who know him. They kind of made it a sort of a story about how he's chauffeured to work now. Like, he was in a car accident several years ago, and I think people were like, okay, someone needs to drive you. He kind of makes jokes about Toyotas because he rides in a Bentley. None of that really rubbed me the wrong way. Like, dude has been super successful. He's super wealthy because of it. Like, that's great. But what struck me was the writer, whose name has escaped me. They get it to his house, and he apologizes that they got there after dark. Like, I know part of that's like sort of like, I can kind of like see him in a top hat with a British flag. Like, some of that is sort of ingrained, I think, in the British culture, but maybe Myke could disagree with that. But that little thing, kind of like, that little story reminded me, like, he is a real person, right? Like, he's not just this machine that's cranking out aluminum things. But that sort of like, hey, I'm sorry we got here after dark. Like, that little like human touch, I thought was a really nice, all throughout this article, really nice touch of seeing him not only at work, but kind of like what makes him tick. And I don't know, that little story just kind of jumped out at me. I thought it was pretty nice.
And also, when they say that he has a poster in his office with a lot of curses in this poster, like a lot of words that we cannot say here, I was like, yeah, Johnny keeps posters like teenagers. That's kind of human,
There's always the thing that I love about Jony Ive, which was that the video of him on the British TV show called Blue Peter.
Oh yes.
I'll put it in the show notes in case you've never seen it, but it's such a great moment, and it makes sense to me because if you are a British person and was a child as a British person, like in the last like 40 years, you would feel that way and that happy about being on Blue Peter, like, and getting the gold badge like he does. Like, it's this whole thing. Look, you can look it up. It's not really much point in me going into it, but the idea is like, it really showed to me that like he has a very human side, and I think that especially under Steve Jobs, like, there was, there was at least a time where we kind of thought of Apple executives as kind of like not real people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because he's an alien.
Oh yeah, except for the fact that he's an alien. Yeah.
No, I get it.
Because like Jobs was such a, like, obviously was a human, but like was you never saw him that way. And it kind of that kind of, and the secrecy helps that kind of permeate.
Yep.
But that for me, like, it really showed like a personal side to him that I really liked, and I think it's a personal side that Tim Cook, Tim's Apple, is bringing out in the executives now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
where Steve's Apple was very much like, we are not real people. We are like the machine that you mentioned.
We are above you as a like next level human.
Yeah,
I get this sort of feeling from the old Apple. And what's really sad is that the Steve Jobs biography failed miserably to capture this human side. It was factually wrong, and it's not really a biography. And of course, Jony Ive, I cannot remember the exact quote, but he's not really happy about the biography in the article. He says, I think I couldn't hold it in lower regard. It was really bad.
I did read that. I read that somewhere over the last. Like, I've seen a few quotes here and there, but like, I did see that. I was like, oh, like he didn't just put it down. Like,
that's
a
sick burn.
Exactly what he wanted to say. Like, I could not hold it in lower regard. What a great line. And that must be so upsetting, like, to people like Jony, who Steve was such a close friend of his, and maybe thought that this biography, when he knew it was happening, would finally give people a taste of what he knew one of his closest friends to be like, and kind of the book just didn't do that. Yeah. That must suck.
No.
I think I'm going to start saying my regard couldn't be any lower, like in meetings and stuff. Like, what do you think about this logo concept? Well,
just use it as a quote.
Utterly destroy people. Oh
You know, you
man,
should also get a driver, Stephen,
I should.
and
I have a. I bought
apologize
it.
for
I
getting
bought a
home when it's
Toyota though.
dark.
I bought a Toyota, so that
Just,
can be cool.
just buy some like a Bentley logo and put it on the car and
Done.
pretend it's a
Done.
vintage
I'll
Bentley.
be
I
on.
don't know.
I'll be on eBay during the next ad read.
Anything else?
From the article?
Yeah.
I mean, there's the Apple car, but we're going to talk about that in a few minutes. No, I think we summed up the most relevant quotes. There's like some funny bits that I don't remember. One more thing that I want to mention: there's no like the reporter got access to Apple, to Jony Ive's wife, to close friends, to what's the guy, Mark Newson, the designer. He didn't talk to Phil Schiller at Apple for some reason. That kind of stood out to me because Phil, we always see him on stage, you know, and in videos, and he didn't. He talked to Mansfield, I think, to Big Bob, and he didn't talk to Schiller. It was kind of strange.
If there's, we were talking about like the bigger than you, kind of like look down upon you type Apple, and maybe he's the only person left who's kind of like that.
Probably, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, that's like allegations to make about the man, but like all I mean is like if there's going to be anybody that's potentially going to still be like that in the Apple executive team, he may still be in that mindset.
Or he was probably busy just taking pictures of squirrels.
Probably was doing that
with the iPhone 7. I don't know.
About that, like very quick aside, the families of the Apple executive teams are very different all the time. They have huge families.
Yeah,
they're always talking about their family vacations that they go on, and they've got completely new families in their photos.
There should be a TV show about the Apple executive families. Call it like Friends or whatever. I don't know. I feel like there could be such great stories in this show. I don't know. Like they have dinners.
Parks.
They have dinners together, and like they talk behind their backs. You know, all the kind of like a parenthood for Apple executive families. That could be such a great show, man. Where's Joe Steele when you need it? I need to talk to Joe.
This week's episode of Connected is also brought to you by Igloo, the internet you'll actually like. With Igloo, you can share news, organize your files, coordinate calendars, and manage projects all in one place. It's a fantastic way for you and your team to work together and socialize together too. Igloo's intranet works on any mobile device, including the iPhones, the iPads. Anywhere you can get to a web browser, it's going to look fantastic because they have responsive design built right into the platform. So you can do anything from read a document, manage your tasks, or share a photo of your lunch, to administrative tasks like managing your settings. Igloo will allow you to work how you want, where you want, whenever you want. Igloo's latest upgrade, Viking, revolves around documents and how you interact with them, gather feedback, and make changes. They have a great HTML5 document preview engine. This can be viewed on all platforms and ensures everyone is up to date on the most recent version, and they've even added the ability to track who's read critical information to keep everyone on the same page. It's kind of like read receipts in your email, but less annoying, helping you track whether employees have read and acknowledged policies, signed off on legal agreements, or confirmed completion of training materials. Best of all, Igloo's platform is super customizable. You can change how your Igloo looks and functions, within certain groups, so you can customize exactly as you want it to work for different teams or for your entire Igloo really, really easily, and these changes show up everywhere instantly. If your company has a legacy intranet that looks like it was built in the 90s, you should be giving Igloo a try. Igloo is free to use with up to 10 people, and you can sign up instantly at igloosoftware.com/connected. Thank you so much to Igloo for their support of this show and Relay FM.
So I guess we should talk about the car thing.
Yeah, sure.
I've sort of been
I feel like
dreading.
I feel like Myke should talk about cars.
Why?
Because I know that you're a very passionate driver, Michael.
Oh, right, I get it. Yes. Of the three of us, I don't have a driving license. That's correct.
So let me ask you: if Apple does a car would you buy one and finally get a license?
No.
Oh, come on.
It's
Why?
nothing to do with car manufacturers.
He could buy one and just keep it at home.
It's just
in his
difficult.
drawer.
It's difficult to warrant the cost of a car in London.
Is it really that bad?
There's just a lot of congestion, and public transport's really good. So you can kind of get everywhere you need to get with public transport. So it kind of seems pointless to spend all that money on a car.
Yeah. Or maybe when you will have a family, you will move to the British countryside. Lives in a very big house in the country. Myke, and you will get a car to commute.
I think
to London.
I think what will end up changing me is when I have a family. So when I have kids, that's probably what will change me into getting a car, because then there are more tangible reasons for owning a car at that point.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So Stephen, tell us about Project Titan.
Project Titan, which is an epic name. This came out last week or over the weekend, I think. Just a couple links, one to the Wall Street Journals, one to Reuters.
Mm-hmm.
Writers.
It's not like where you connect your internet to.
That's a modem.
Modem does.
So WSJ and modemers, kind of conflicting. WSJ says that Apple is working on a car project. Could be as many as 1,000 people working on it. It is for an electric car. This comes on the heels of a lot of reports that Elon Musk and Tim Cook are fighting over employees in the Valley to work on their apparently respective car projects.
Did you feel like Tim Cook could take down Elon in a fight?
No, Elon Musk is like Iron Man.
Yeah, I don't know, but Tim Cook has some serious bulk. The guy's big.
Yeah, but Elon Musk has like rocket hands, so
I don't know.
You're gonna lose.
I feel like you made up the rocket hands thing.
You don't know that.
Okay.
I made it up. So obviously, like, our corner of the internet sort of just went crazy with this. A lot of people, including myself, my knee-jerk reaction was an Apple car sort of made me laugh because Finder had just crashed for like the 5th time that day. But I think big picture, it's pretty interesting. 1,000 engineers working on this. Like, they're not pulling engineering resources from the Swift framework team, more likely than not. It's not like these people were working on iCloud infrastructure and now are working on seatbelts. It's I don't think this is as big of a resource drain, especially if they're hiring people in. But I don't know. Like, is an Apple car the most ridiculous thing in the world? I don't think it is, because the technology industry and the car industry are just like merging more and more every year, and so I don't know. It's weird.
The ways in which they're merging, though, are still so very far away from each other. Like, just because a car runs on electricity doesn't make it a consumer electronic. I know we've had this discussion, I believe, a few times, but that my feeling about it, like, yes, it is electric, but it's very different. Like, a car which will cost like 20 grand as opposed to a computer which costs 1. Like, it's these are very different things. Like, as well, like, Apple tends not to have to worry about a myriad of things. Like, if the computer hits a wall or the computer crashes, will it kill anyone? Like, no, all it will do is make a Skype recording really upset, and you have to use that, and then all of the listeners get upset, if your computer crashes.
When has that happened?
Not today. It's not the same. Like, the ramifications of issues are so vastly different. Like, that fundamentally you have to start thinking things differently as a company. And where I had the same feeling that you did initially, like, this is insane, and I still do to a point think this is insane. It's like I just and I get what you're saying. Like, your piece on it I thought was very, very thoughtful, and I quite liked it. I still think that like this is such a huge change for the company that it doesn't even really make sense to me. Like it would seem so peculiar.
Oh yeah. Oh, it definitely is, and it's beyond consumer electronics for sure. I mean, you know, Apple doing CarPlay, like that's still Apple doing iPhone type things, right? But this is something totally different, and I think the reality is that, you know, Apple is the largest tech company in the world. One of the largest companies in the world, period, tech or not. So they're playing with all sorts of things. You know, is Project Titan ever going to end up sitting in my driveway? I don't know. But it's not crazy for Apple to be playing with things. You know, one thing that kind of came to memory, under Steve Jobs, R&D at Apple was very small for the size of the company they were, and it's expanded under Tim Cook if you look at their earnings reports. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think Apple needs to be experimenting and thinking about different things. But as far as a car showing up in 2 years or 5 years, I'm not sold on that. But I don't know. What do you think, Federico?
It all sounds so far away from me. Not just in the sense that I'm not really a car expert. Like, I don't think about my car. I just want to drive my car because it needs to take me places. I don't follow car news. Not just in that sense that that I don't care that much, but also all this talk about self-driving cars, Tesla, electric cars. I mean, in Italy, we are very much far away from this Silicon Valley type of car news. And also here, driving old school manual shift is still very much what most people do. And I myself have grown up and I learned to drive manual. And to me, driving is manual because I actually like driving. Like, I like all the gestures, and not the gestures in the sense of stereotype, but all the stuff you need to do to drive a car, to the shift and the steering wheel. So thinking about these electric cars with presumably automatic shifts and maybe even self-driving, it sounds so so different, so new to me. And so it's difficult for me to imagine this sort of Apple car stuff. And also, it seems like what you said, Stephen, it's a massive undertaking. It's a massive change because making a car is not like making an iPhone. And I think Craig Hockenberry made a great point on his blog about you cannot ship thousands of Apple cars overnight from China on a plane like you can with iPhones.
It's a really big plane.
It's unless you have a really big plane, exactly. I don't know. It's so. And I have a friend who works at Maserati here in Italy. He's a project manager, and when we talk, when he comes down to Viterbo, and when occasionally we meet and we catch up. And he explains to me the process of the manufacturing and all the different pieces and how many people are involved and all the machinery, and they constantly need to upgrade these machines and like how they build stuff, all the little details. It's a completely different manufacturing, marketing, everything is different. So while you can reuse, like Apple makes iPhones, they make iPads, and they can reuse components, they can reuse people, they can share, marketing people. Making a car is like a whole different market. It's not another type of computer. It's another type of object with a completely different type of price. And so for this reason, I don't know, it seems if they're really doing this, and this is the other half of my feelings about this, I think Apple is working on this stuff because it just makes sense. They have all that cash. They are crazy enough to have people like Jony Ive who basically don't sleep anymore. and they want to oversee everything, and they seem to be, in a good way, self-conscious enough that they know that they can make better design than others. And also considering Apple's interest in, being green and supporting renewable energies, that kind of stuff, making a car that allows people to drive without, pollution, or that sort of old school, like you need to put gas into your tank mindset. It makes sense, but it's a massive undertaking and change. So I'm kind of torn between, my nature of an Italian who drives a manual car and doesn't follow car news, and the idea that Apple is, in theory, well positioned to do this sort of effort. But in practice, it's a massive change. And so I don't know. It's fascinating, much more fascinating than the iPad stylus, for sure. So I'll leave you with that.
What if the car will come with a stylus that he could do real work in it? I agree totally. It's such a different ball game. The ex-CEO of GM, who has been in the news a lot recently for building cars that kill people, unfortunately. They have lots of recalls and whatnot going on right now. He had a quote that was eerily similar to like Steve Ballmer rejecting the iPhone, and kind of the they're not going to walk in and figure this out type of feeling. And that is not shocking, but I think even more so than with Ballmer and the phone and these other companies looking at Apple in the past, this really is a huge jump. I mean, going from a computer to a smartphone, that's a jump, but it's still a computer type thing, and a car is not a computer type thing. Maybe all we see out of this is CarPlay gets a lot better, or is easier to use or something. I would love to see Apple take over the dashboard in a more robust way. I mean,
what kind of dashboard? The OS X dashboard?
I want widgets inside my car, and when you add a new one, you get the little ripple effect. It'd be exciting.
Steven, stop.
You like the ripple effect?
No,
just widgets.
Just widgets. Widgets are really helpful for some people. So, I don't know. Time will tell with this. I think Project Titan is one of many things Apple is doing that we don't know about. This one leaked, obviously, because it seems to be really big. The fact that it is so big, I think, leads credence that Apple is taking it seriously. It's not just a handful of people in a room somewhere, like, tinkering with something. But it would definitely mark a new chapter in the company if this were to come true. And I think it would be a really, really big deal. Does it mean they're losing focus? Does it mean that the software quality is going to continue to suffer for the Mac and iOS? I don't know if those things are hand in hand, but it would definitely be an adventure. And I think for now, that's all we could really say.
This week's episode of Connected is also brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website, portfolio, and online store. For a free trial and 10% off, visit squarespace.com and enter the offer code WORLD at checkout. When it comes to giving yourself a place online, there is nowhere better than Squarespace. They put all of the power you need into your hands and take away all of the pain points like worrying about hosting, scaling, or what to do if you get stuck with something. Squarespace have applied everything that they have learned from powering millions of sites on the web to make an even better platform with their newly released Squarespace 7. Squarespace's fantastic, clean, and beautiful designs allow you to craft a home for yourself online. And with Squarespace 7, they have added even more of them. They have 15 new templates in total that all feature responsive web design built right in. They've partnered with some really cool musicians, artists, architects, and chefs to develop new templates that even cater to these professions. They've added something called cover pages that allows you to create really great looking single page websites with all of the full power of a Squarespace site. They're really cool for personal announcements or intros to your website or something like that. They've partnered with Getty Images to provide you with a great deal on awesome photography at just $10 an image. They have their fantastic 24/7 support through live chat and email. They have teams located in New York, Dublin, and Portland who are there to help you with that. Squarespace's commerce platform as well. They have that, which is fantastic. This allows you to build your own store into your Squarespace site. That's what we use to sell our Relay FM merchandise as as well. If you sign up for a year with Squarespace, you'll get a free domain name, allowing you to choose exactly what you want your site to be called, and their plans start at just $8 a month. Sign up for a free trial right now with no credit card required, and start building your website today by going to squarespace.com. And when you decide to sign up, make sure that you use the offer code WORLD to get 10% off your first purchase and show your support for this show. Thank you so much to Squarespace for helping us out today. Squarespace, build it beautiful. So there was something that we kind of wanted to bring up today after Dropbox announced that they've kind of beefed up their app by adding extensions. And I'm kind of interested to understand, how is everybody using extensions these days?
From the share sheet.
Yes.
Good topic.
I'm sorry, Mike. Okay, so this is a topic that, in all seriousness, I'm sorry, guys. I like to be funny on occasion. I want to talk about extensions because it's been a few months since iOS 8 came out. And I know that, I mean, you also know that I use my iPhone and iPad a lot. But I want to start from you, Stephen, because you seem to be the more Mac OS X type of guy here. So tell me, when you use your iPhone or your iPad, do you use extensions much? Do you use them for, excuse me for using this terminology, consumption type of stuff? Or do you use to actually do stuff more quickly? That is not reading or watching a movie or whatever.
Yeah, so my usage is really based around only a handful of extensions, but the ones that have stuck around, I'm using pretty heavily. The big three for me are Day One, Instapaper, and Pinner, which is a pinboard application. And so with Day One, for instance, you can have a photo, you can be in the camera roll, and send it off to Day One and add information to it. It makes it really easy to, I really like Day One, but it can be a little slow to go in and add a new post and tell it what info you want. You can do it all from the share sheet, which is really fast and really nice. And my Day One usage has gone up incredibly since that extension has worked. Instapaper and Pinner, I think are definitely more in the consumption space of things of, hey, I want to send something to one of these two services, but is definitely something that makes that a lot faster. I have gotten rid of almost all of my little bookmarklets that I used to run in Mobile Safari to do all this stuff. Extensions have just completely taken over all of that. And of course, there's some others. There's some utility ones like 1Password and the Workflow extension, which are both super powerful. And 1Password in particular has really made browsing and like the other night I bought something on Amazon just on my phone because I knew that I had the 1Password extension. I didn't have to go and copy my Amazon password in and do all that crazy stuff. So it's definitely a time saver for me on a kind of both sides of that question.
Myke, what about you?
So I think my main problem is that like the majority of the time I forget that extensions exist. Like I might be doing something, or I open up that extension that's paying for something. And I'm like, oh yeah, there's that extension is here that I can use to do these things. Or like I'm thinking about a way to get something done and don't even consider to think maybe an extension could fix this. Maybe I should go and find an app that has an extension. Like that has yet to really truly become part of my kind of thinking. And I don't know why that is. Maybe just there aren't as many use cases as there could be yet, or like there aren't as many like ways in which you can pass this information around. Like maybe there needs to be more extension types before.
Do you feel like the way that you need to activate extensions makes you forget about extensions? Like you need to hit this share icon and then there's a panel. Because one of my, I think I will start, every year I do this annual iOS wishes roundup on Mac Stories. And this is the period of the year when I create my note with all my wishes for the next version of iOS. And one of my big things in this article that I'm starting now is being able to activate extensions in different ways. And because I imagine, what if instead of going through all these steps that I need to press the share icon and then scroll through extensions, what if I could just customize shortcuts to specific extensions directly in the toolbars or the menus of the apps that I use? So imagine if you have Instapaper installed, you get an Instapaper icon in Safari instead of going through the share icon or for instance, allow me to, this is gonna sound weird, but again, allow me to have an extension side by side with the current app that I'm using, so that I don't have to choose either you use the app or you use the extension that comes on top of the app. You can do stuff for like a few seconds maybe with both apps and the app and the extension next to each other. So I'm thinking that maybe in iOS 9 it'll make, because you made me think of this point that I was, just considering, but I get it. It makes sense that you forget about extensions because the entire environment, and I guess for security reasons, but also because Apple didn't have much time, it feels kind of limited in the ways that you as a user can get into extensions. And it seems a bit slow after a while. And then because it's slow, you forget about, the share sheet and extensions. So yeah, all this to say, Myke, that's a great point, and I think it makes sense. And it needs to change.
Yeah, I've got a couple of things I would add to that wish list. I wish that you could turn off some of the built-in Apple stuff. So like, I never want to send anything to reading list.
I
never want to print anything.
I also, even though they said they fixed it, they really haven't fixed it. Where if you reorder something, so I remember this with Tweetbot and Safari, like I can't ever get my ordering what I want, because if I change it one place, it has a tendency to affect it the other place. That the ordering is still sort of buggy, but honestly, I would love to order them per app. Even like that would be fine with me. Just leave them where I put them, and let me turn off ones I don't want. But I definitely agree with you. It's sort of weird that they sort of hijack the share button for this. And I get it because philosophically, like most extensions send data somewhere else. But I do think that by putting them one layer away, it's a little bit removed from like a lot of people's minds. I will say though that on the iPad, especially like using something like Tweetbot that hasn't been updated yet, I look for them because Tweetbot can do some of that stuff natively, but it's sort of weird, and like I'm looking for a share button and that's not there, so it has sort of stuck for me. But I do wish that so there was a little more polish in sort of the experience of actually using and editing them and that sort of thing.
For a second, like I heard you say it, but then like didn't think that you said iPad, and I was like, bro, I've got something to tell you. Like, the iPhone app was updated ages ago.
Oh no! I've been running the old one. Everything looks like metal all the time.
So basically, the only extensions that I use, like instinctively of any sort of frequency, are workflow. I mean, I use that a lot because there are some things that like I want to do, and the only way to do them, right, is workflow. So if I ever think of doing a certain thing, it's like the only way I can do it, or it pops up at certain points. Like for example, it's a bit like one workflow that I use a lot is just very simply take the current URL and open in Safari. And there are a couple of things as being a Chrome user which is super frustrating. Like if you click a link, if I click a link in Mailbox to open the test flight app because I get an email or something, it opens in Chrome and then opens the App Store and takes me to the test flight app in the App Store. And it's like,
really
you're just trolling me. Like,
that's fine.
Someone here is trolling me because that doesn't make any sense.
You know which email client can open test flight links correctly?
Outlook.
There
you go.
Yes. So, Myke, question.
Yeah.
Is the workflow extension slow sometimes to come up for you?
If it is, I don't remember it being.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm running into this strange bug and I need to tell the developers.
You probably have like a billion in there. And there are other things that pop up, like I want to use, like send something to Huffduffer or whatever. But like the thing is, like the workflow extension is like a whole other thing. Like I don't even think of it as an extension. It's just like the way I use that app. But anyway, the other one that I use of any kind of frequency is Group Text Plus. And the only reason that I use that frequently is because I open up the share sheet to send something to someone by text message, and then that one's right next to it. And I'm like, oh yeah, that one's easier. Like I never think, oh, I better send this in Group Text Plus. It's just like it's right next to the message icon.
This is your process. You surprise yourself every single time.
That is effectively all it is.
That's an awesome way to live life, Myke.
They are, it's just little miracles. They are literally the only ones that I use of any kind of frequency.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I didn't think you'd still be using workflow that much.
It's just there are a few things that I have it do frequently that just no other app can help me with easy.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So there you go.
Nice. Very nice, Michael. So is anyone asking me, or should I just start talking by myself?
I was just about to ask you, but carry on.
Thank you.
As you were, sir, as you were.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Myke. So the ones that I use the most, the extensions, Todoist, Workflow, Clips, and 1Password. These are my big ones. Todoist because this has been such a huge help for me. I always forget to remember things I need to do. And thanks to the extension, Todoist is the to-do app that I use. I switched to Todoist last summer. I feel like I can remember stuff because I can create to-dos more easily. So there's less friction. It's always right there in the share sheet, which I always open. So I don't forget about extensions because I think for work and for Mac Stories articles, I use them a lot. So it's kind of become really a habit for me. And because Todoist is there, like I'm forgetting less stuff. I still need to get better because I often just don't save something that my girlfriend or somebody else tells me to do, and then I don't save it manually and I forget. But I'm getting better, and the extension has been a huge help. Clips, it's a clipboard manager for iOS, and I love the ability to you can clip multiple. You can save multiple bits of text, like when I'm in Twitterific, because the Twitter app doesn't have the share sheet, and I want to save, links to a bunch of tweets that people have sent me. I can just save them to clips, and then using the widget, I can pull the link back and paste it in my text editor or Slack or whatever. It's super useful. 1Password, of course, to log into websites and apps, and especially impressive because of Touch ID. And I didn't think that I would use Touch ID on my iPad much, but thanks to apps like 1Password and stuff that implements Touch ID authentication, it has been useful. Touch ID on my iPad, and 1Password is, I think, the app that I use the most with Touch ID every day. And Workflow, I do so much stuff into this app, and I think I do all this stuff because it has this crazy action extension. I use it to share links, like when I'm reading in Pocket or in Nazzle. These apps use their own custom short links. And when I share a link on Mac Stories or on Twitter, I don't want to use these custom domains. So I have a workflow that expands the real link for me, which is super useful. I have workflows to create what people call text shots, which is like when you want to tweet a quote from an article and you just assemble. I learned this terminology from M.G. Siegler, text shot. It's a thing that people do. There's a whole theory on the best color and the best typography to use for text shots. If you're interested, Myke, I recommend using the sepia theme. Because the contrast is much better with it. Anyway, so I used to share links. I used to save files in Dropbox and getting the link back. I use this crazy workflow for Virtual and Mac Stories Weekly. I save all the links that I want to talk about in an Evernote note. And when it comes the time that I need to record with you, Myke, or to put together the newsletter, I want to open all these links back again into Safari and go through them, go through each link to make sure that I want to talk about it. So I have a workflow that takes all these links from a note and it opens all of them at once in Safari. It's crazy. I don't know how to do it. These guys are geniuses. So yeah, I use workflow to a lot of the stuff that I used to do in Python with Pythonista or bookmarklets in Safari. Now I have this visual way with workflow, and it's got the extension. So for me, from the productivity perspective, these days working on iOS is much better thanks to extensions. There are many others. Like today, I needed to track a shipment, and I used the deliveries extension, which is really nice. There's the AnyList extension that I used to save recipes. I also basically forced the developers to support Italian recipe websites. They were awesome. They added support for my favorite recipe websites.
I love how I knew this was going to be the case. Like me and Stephen have like one or two, and then it's like, oh, let me list the ways.
Federico's phone doesn't have any apps anymore. All it is extensions. It's like Safari and just a bunch of extensions, and nothing else is happening.
That is not too far from the truth. There was the really awesome view source extension to view the source code of a web page in Safari.
I use that on my iPad.
Yeah,
that's good.
Because when I pretend to be a web developer, look at me. I'm looking at code, and that's really, really funny. Extensions, guys. I cannot wait to see what happens in iOS 9. Assuming it is going to be called iOS 9.
What else would they call it?
I don't know. iOS
8.6.
iOS
semicolon. We're bad at new OSs.
Maybe they'll go with Apple Phone OS 4.
Maybe they'll go with iOS 10, just like Microsoft.
I think that does it for this week.
iOS X.
If you would like to find the show notes for this week's episode, go to relay.fm/connected/27. If you'd like to find us online, you can find Federico. He is at Viticci, Viticci, and he writes at macstories.net. Stephen is at ISMH on Twitter, and you can find him at 512pixels.net. And I am at iMyke, IMYKE, and I host a bunch of shows at relay.fm, of which this show is a part of that commitment. Thanks. Thanks again to our sponsors for this week, our friends over at Lynda, Squarespace, and Igloo. And thank you for listening, and we'll be back next time. Say goodbye, gentlemen.
Arrivederci.
Adios, amigos.
Are you